the CPP, the EI, the WCB, starts adding thousands of dollars. But in theory, if we really wanted to, like Canada could be one of the
Richest.
wealthiest countries in the world, and we wouldn't have. As business owners, the WCB is an insurance certificate to actually protect us. The people that were actually making the money, it wasn't the employees, wasn't the manager, wasn't the department head. It was.
So if you can let our audience know how it all started for you, how your journey began as a Carpenter Johnny, and how did you come up with the name?
Well, Carpenter Johnny wasn't born. He was made in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I've been in business now. I think this is my 12th year in business, and I'm originally from Southern Ontario, Toronto to be exact. And so I was just tired of doing the same year in business, 5 years in a row. So after, half a decade, I decided I wanted to be a property owner, and I told my business partner, I'm moving to Winnipeg, Manitoba. And that's where, I had the opportunity to become something greater than ever possibly imagined.
Interesting. And so this carpenter thing, was it something you wanted to do as a young adult or something you grow into?
I don't think most young people growing up, we want to be in the trades. Usually, I'm a 90s kid, right? So I was born in 94, and they were telling all the kids in school, elementary school, middle school, high school, you're going to go and you're going to study some sort of, get some sort of fancy degree. You're going to get a profession, and you're going to work in an office, and you're going to make multiple six figures doing something ambiguous in an office. So I don't think most people, really imagine they'd end up, working blue collar after all that, indoctrination. But actually, I do come from a white collar background, ironically, doing some internships for, realtors and lawyers. I have a paralegal college diploma from Seneca College in Ontario. Otherwise, how would I have the knowledge to drag some of Winnipeg's finest business people to court? But here we are, and combining white collar skills in the blue collar world, we've been able to make something absolutely fantastic.
And I believe how you're telling me the story, I think early on you realized 9 to 5 is not something for you.
Well, my only and last 9 to 5 job, I worked, the only one time I worked minimum wage. I worked at the Rona on Willowdale and Shepherd in Toronto. Busiest Rona in the city, because in that specific location in North York, there was hundreds of houses at the time getting bulldozed, and they were taking down these 1,200 square foot bungalows and replacing them with 3,000 to 5,000 square foot custom houses that were selling for multi-million dollars.
What was wrong with these houses they were bulldozing down?
No, there was nothing wrong. It was just speculators. So you go and you buy a house for $1 million or $1.5 million, and you tear it down and you put on a multi-million-dollar house, and maybe the developer gets lucky and makes a spread of $200,000 or $300,000.
Interesting. So it started in Ontario, and then you moved to Winnipeg eventually.
Well, I started a minimum wage job at Rona, loading the vehicles for all the tradespeople and contractors and developers that were shopping from that local store. And most of the stuff was delivered, ahead of time to the job site. But sometimes they needed extra supplies, extra materials. There was a big construction boom happening there that's obviously doesn't exist today with current interest rates, the current environment. And I realized it was a dead-end job. I'm all learning skills. You can go to any Home Depot, any Rona, or even any minimum wage job, and you just see the people there working there just standing around, not learning anything useful, and ultimately not making big bucks. So I realized early on that the people that were actually making the money, it wasn't the employees, wasn't the manager, wasn't the department head. It was the business owner, the tradespeople. They were driving, $60,000 to $80,000 pickup trucks. They were picking up construction materials. I could see that in the back of their pickup truck in the bed. Not only did they have their own tools, but I saw actually a hockey bag in there, because after they were done working for the day, they're taking their kids to hockey practice. So obviously these people are making money.
And had time too to do all this stuff. And that is very fascinating, because you go to Rona and you see people stuck, as you mentioned, in 9 to 5 cycles, and they keep on churning out hours into there and get a paycheck, right? And people get so accustomed to it that they forget there's outside world where a lot of things can be achieved. And this is something that got you curious, and then you jumped into. Is that the time when you were able to make links or networks with the tradespeople and?
Absolutely. So I worked in an outdoor warehouse environment. So there was the store, and you can go inside the store, but the lumber yard was actually an outdoor lumber yard. So there was less supervision. There was, the manager couldn't be everywhere at once. There was all these tradespeople. I think there was like hundreds of tradespeople, hundreds of vehicles going in and out every single day. So, I had the opportunity, to talk to people, network, ask them, oh, what's the story of your life? And ultimately, ask for a job.
And that's very interesting. So, and then eventually you realized this is what you wanted to do, and this is what will get you your freedom, basically. And
well, not necessarily, because you're replacing a job for another job, but at least the new job is teaching, you skills. So how to do the cuts, how to work with wood, how to do something, how to think outside of the box. So we went from loading materials into the trucks and, vans of these contractors to now removing the materials out of those vehicles at the job site and actually working with said materials. But ultimately, the big jump was entering the world of business. Because, you can go to school all you want. You can go get all the apprenticeships you want. You can, study and, get all these degrees or certificates or whatever nonsense that's out there. But ultimately, the fastest way to financial freedom and independence is entering the world of business.
That's true. I couldn't agree more, because I'll tell you a little bit of how I got started. I started promoting events, just like what Hanny is doing somewhat now, and made some decent money from that, and then put that into dispensaries and realized how big of a change it is, 9 to 5, and then you go to the business world. And during this whole process, you started your own company, realized, okay, this is the highest calling for you, not the 9 to 5. There must be some times when you must have got a setback or something. How you deal with those?
I think Elon Musk said this, that he said that running a company can be like staring into the abyss and eating glass, because as the CEO or the managing director, you're hyper focused on all the things that aren't going well with the business. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of things that go well, when we're making money and we're having fun and we're getting all these wins, but we're mostly hyper fixated on all the things that are not going well and all the problems that, other people cannot solve that get dumped on our lap. So it's a lot of things in business that, are fun, lots of things that aren't fun. And ultimately, this is what separates, the mindset of the entrepreneur is what, separates people that, want to stay in the hamster wheel of the 9 to 5 and people that feel that they deserve better and they want more for themselves.
Makes sense. And interesting enough, as you mentioned, all the problems are dumped into your lap because as an owner or the CEO, you have to make sure every operations are run in a perfect manner. If there's any problems, those problems are directed to you. And then how does Carpenter Johnny manages his day? Like when he wakes up, he knows he's bombarded with problems. All right, I got this. How do you prioritize things? How do you manage sites? If you can give us some insights about that.
I don't really want to call it problems, but I see it as more as opportunities. So usually I'll wake up in the morning, usually an hour before my alarm goes off. And right away I'll start posting, some content from, usually I'll repost my memories of the projects I did the day before to get it started. And then we'll respond to some hate mail from the other fence and deck guys or tradespeople that I've been putting out of business. And then usually by 8:45, I'll, which is actually pretty late for, a construction guy or construction owner. I'll drag my ass out of bed and, we'll get ready, aiming to be at the job site for 10 a.m. because I like to work 10 to 6. I don't want to be stuck around in traffic getting to work. I want to be there relaxed. So we'll do 8 hours on the job site, and then usually I'll do an estimate after work, and then we go home, we do the bookkeeping, we produce a lot of content during the day. So this is something that kind of separates me from the other tradespeople, is that we have a big emphasis on digital marketing. So capturing content, documenting the process, building the projects from start to finish. But more importantly, everybody has TikTok brain. Everybody loves TikTok, supposedly. Facebook Shorts, Instagram Shorts, Facebook Reels. So we make a lot of that content as well, where we're trying to show the comedic side. So this is something that a lot of tradespeople don't do, because a lot of tradespeople are antisocial and they don't want to talk about what's on their mind.
And I think because you know how we are more attracted towards people with opposite ends. So I'll give you an example. So if I think of a tradesman, I think of someone serious, right?
Right.
Who's kind of angry or hangry all the time.
Angry at the world,
Right? Whereas you, Johnny, are a very welcoming kind of person, very jolly. And these two two things usually don't go together. So, and I think that what puts you in a different league of altogether.
Well, no, and that's absolutely true, because like the customers can tell that I actually want to be there, that I actually want to help them out, where for most of these trades guys, they're, it's a job for them and they actually don't enjoy it. And I've even had other tradespeople saying, I wish that I actually enjoyed my trade or my business as much as you. And so there's like a saying, if you're not going to enjoy the journey, you're going to lose.
And how many tradesmen do I see putting constantly or consistently on social media, unlike you? So I think that gives you a better edge to compete with all these.
I'm sure they're out there, spread around, the industry in the world. Maybe not saturated in Manitoba, but there is other young guys. I'm actually one of the older of the young guys. Like, I'm turning 32.
You're one of the pioneers.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's even younger guys. Like, I know a 24-year-old. I know a 27-year-old that has his own business. I know I think a 29-year-old. Right, and so there's other young guys too, but I'm more of the innovator and pushing the envelope and doing absolutely outrageous things. Doing things that nobody in the industry wants to do or hasn't thought yet about doing. Breaking the rules, making new rules as we go.
And that what makes you unique and your whole entrepreneurial journey unique, in my opinion. So, if Carpenter Johnny has to expand today, what do you usually say to your team? This is what I want to get done, and this is how we're going to get done. What are some steps, if you can, tell us?
There isn't really plans for expansion. I mean, I've already hit, maximum capacity. So in 2025, in 8 months, we did roughly 132 projects, which is like phenomenal. And no, I don't have a big crew. I didn't inherit daddy's company. It's me and another guy that I work with on site, and for maybe bigger jobs, I'll spawn, a third person to be on site. But there's no plans to expand, and the reason why is that you start expanding, now you have to start doubling the prices, and now all of a sudden there's inefficiencies because the people that are running the site might not be as good as you. And then if you want guys that are good at running the site, now you got to pay them at least base $50 an hour, and you're putting them on payroll. The CPP, the EI, the WCB, starts adding thousands of dollars on top of their salary. And then, people make mistakes. You got to have more oversight. You got to have now a whole management team. This is going to cost
and it's
tens
your
of thousands of dollars.
Line.
Yeah, and then plus the reputation. So there's pretty much no incentive to really expand the business. And the easiest way to scale isn't even by hiring more people. It's just slightly rising prices, right? I mean, it doesn't sound good. I mean, it doesn't sound popular, but hey, there's big companies out there charging a markup of like 60 to 120% on labor and material on the Carpenter Johnny price. And you're saying that I can't ask for an extra like $200 a day? Absolutely wild.
That's crazy, yeah. So, you said you managed 132 projects or got done with 132 projects?
Yeah, 8-month period, 2025.
8-month period, 2025. And that's your highest record number so far?
2025, record year.
And before that, in 2024?
I think I did 112. That's still like ridiculous.
Nobody
does this. There's nobody in Winnipeg right now that, there's like a single guy with maybe one helper who's going out there that's pulling in this type of business, project managing this type of business, and then completing this type of business and not like pissing people off on a big scale with the customer saying, oh, why isn't my job done yet? Where are you? Why is the quality control no good? There's nobody right now in the city that can do this kind of thing. People say all the time, oh no, there's guys like Carpenter Johnny everywhere. They're on every street corner. They just, don't breathe. They don't have a pulse. They're 6 feet underground, but they definitely exist. They're everywhere.
It's managing or getting 132 sites done is not easy task, in my opinion, because I'm very oblivious to this world of yours, this carpenter world. But from what I'm making sense, 132 projects is a big task. And what were some things that help you manage or get these tasks done in a timely manner where your customers or clients don't get pissed, or and they're happy and their satisfaction level is still up there?
So I consider myself to be the SWAT of Winnipeg Fences of Deck. So people think of this, the show SWAT stands for Special Weapons and Tactics. So what separates Carpenter Johnny from all the other fence and deck guys? How's Carpenter Johnny able to do what he does? Special weapons and tactics. So there's 2 primary things that I use that I can actually apply to any business. So if you want to be, you want to do what I'm doing, and because this can apply to other industries too. Systems and specializations. So systems very important because you find a system for doing something, standard operating procedure. You go do it 1,000 times. It's like, oh, this is how we build a fence. This is how we built a deck. This is like the basic designs we offer. It's scalable. It's repeatable. Technically, you could also grow your business because if you want to then hire people, assuming you're in that mindset, you already have formulas you can show people. And then the second thing is specialization. So obviously, if you've done something 1,000 times, you're going to be very good at it. And so in my case, it's not just specialization of knowing how to do the marketing and the sales or knowing how to do the work. It's the specialization of everything all together. So I'm a fence and deck guy, and so I'm specialized in marketing and advertising, fences and decks, doing the sales for fences and decks, project managing fences and decks, and ultimately building the fences and decks, and then guiding the client to the end of the transaction, sending the invoice, collecting the money. Easy peasy.
Interesting. And I believe looking at you look like someone who works out too. So I think you're able to manage both things, your business expanding and getting these massive projects done at the same time taking care of yourself. Is there any mantra to that, in your opinion?
So I don't have a gym membership. I haven't had a gym membership since the pandemic. Because we're like, oh, you got to go wear a mask to go to the gym. So I'm like, you know what? Not interested. So, I don't go to the gym. And I think people just need to focus on basics, eating healthy. And I'll do push-ups. I'll do some sit-ups. I'll do some pull-ups. I'll do some squats. I'm not even really using any weights. Right? But you're consistent. You go, maybe exercise 10 minutes a day. I mean, last year I didn't even really exercise at all because I was just pushing myself so hard that I was worried I'd pull my shoulder, something like that. I spend $5,000 a year on, registered massage therapists, getting deep tissue, sports massages. But I think that in the industry, what's overlooked by a lot of the people in my business is that a lot of the trades guys don't take care of themselves. And so maybe they're doing drugs. Maybe they're drinking too much beer. Maybe they're smoking several packs of cigarettes a day. Maybe after they're done work, they're sitting on their ass drinking a beer, watching the game, right? So, and then obviously, not taking care of themselves.
And it adds up.
Well, it adds up too. And then you think about the accumulation of all the injuries they get because maybe they have bad posture at work. And, they start developing, muscle knots and tears. And that's actually why I started working with a registered massage therapist, because when you start developing, problems with your muscle, like the muscle starts getting stiff, you get knots. A lot of the time, people don't even realize they have the problem. And it's not just tradespeople. It could be white-collar people, too, because you're working you're at the office and you're hunched like that. And all of a sudden, you get the bad posture and you start developing, adhesions throughout your body.
And a human body wasn't meant to sit in a chair for 8 hours, right?
Yeah, not meant for that, but also not meant to be, physically overworked. And so a lot of people don't understand that their body is actually falling apart. It's not until you start hitting 40, everything starts falling apart. These people can't work.
And that's when it gets real. When you're in 20s, you feel invincible. Nothing happens to me, or
Yeah,
you recover well, right? Like a Wolverine, or
yeah, and you start neglecting at 30s. It's like whatever. All of a sudden, 40s hits you like a brick. And no, and I've seen people all the time. All of a sudden, they can't get out of bed. They can't get out of the car. They can't go to work. Oh, by the way, they don't have short-term disability or long-term disability insurance coverage. It's like, what do you do?
and then they're in a mess. Yeah, I've heard stories myself where people got injured and were out of work for 6 months, 8 months, and their whole life gets upside down because they have a mortgage, car payment, and whatnot. They're struggling with bills when they have 100% of their income, and with WCB, I guess it's 80%, 70%. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, WCB only covers, what is it? I think I have the minimum coverage for WCB. So if I was to get injured, no, I'd be absolutely, messed up. But at least I'd have short-term disability, and I could maybe do
Other
my
insurances
business.
to take care of you.
There's other insurances, but ultimately, this is why I like being a fence and deck contractor, because the types of injuries that I could get are very limited. So I'm not really working at, excessive heights. I'm not working on a roof, really. And then I actually have gotten one injury at work where I was doing a cut and the saw kicked back and it actually nicked my middle finger. And so I went to the hospital and I got stitches. WCB covered for it. And I went to work. I went back to work the next day.
Interesting. I'll tell you something. When I started these dispensaries, I was surprised that I need WCB coverage for my employees. I'm like, they're not going out on a site where there's hazards, risk, or whatnot, but apparently I'm paying a premium too.
Well, if you think about it, so I have a legal background. I studied employment law in Ontario. So in Ontario, it's called WSIB, but in Manitoba, it's WCB. It's the same shit. So as business owners, the WCB is an insurance certificate to actually protect us from the employees. So it's like, so if an employee, slips and falls at work, it's better that the insurance covers it, because otherwise he can sue you under occupier's liability.
And he'll come for my
and it comes for like all this money. But when it's through WCB, it's like, no, you can only claim this much, and then there's insurance there, so you don't end up getting taken out. And then it actually benefits me too, because when I go and I quote jobs, and the customer's saying, oh, but the guy that, operates out of a ditch with a tin can phone and doesn't have insurance, he says he can be $100 a day cheaper than you. And I'm like, okay, but this guy has no insurance. So at least if me or one of my workers gets injured on your property, the insurance covers, it doesn't come out of your insurance, or, they don't sue you directly for, under personal injury law. Right? A lot of homeowners don't realize it. It's important for the contractor to have insurance. It's actually there to protect them from something wrong happening on their property.
True. A lot of homeowners, I think, get this wrong. They try to go for the cheaper option, but they forget they get what they pay for, right? If they're paying top dollar or decent premium, they're getting premium service where everything's covered. You're getting the finished product in a great manner, unlike the cheap-ass guy down the street with a tin can phone that you said. He'll do half a job, and he'll be hard to work with. And people need to, or homeowners need to align their values in that sense. What do you think? You deal with homeowners all the time.
Like I'm more in the middle, because there is, like, in the spectrum, you have the guy that's not even a real company, right? That operates everything out of cash. There's no, receipts, there's no insurance, there's no accountability, and maybe doesn't even understand the job. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have these big companies with like entire management teams, and there's a fleet of 20 trucks and like 30 employees, and they're charging a 120% markup on labor and material on the Carpenter Johnny price. So I'm right in the middle, where tell the homeowner, it's like, look, there's certain things that as a homeowner you already expect for the, the service provider to give you and your family, right? You want to have the bare basic insurance. You want to know that I'm registered. Especially I do a lot of, B2B, a lot of commercial stuff. They want registrations. They want insurance. They want, they want the receipt, because they're going to be writing it off on their taxes. And then at the same time, it's like you expect a certain level of conscientious service. So, you go you ask the person, it's like, oh, so, you work at your job. How much, you live in a nice house. I assume you have to have a decent job to qualify for a mortgage like this. And they're like, yeah, I make like $50 an hour. And I'm like, okay. And so if I was making $50 an hour, you expect me to now subtract my insurance and all my overhead out of that $50 an hour? What? So I'm making like $5 an hour working at your $700,000 Manitoba property. So once they realize how ridiculous this is, all of a sudden they're actually willing to open up their wall and be like, yeah, you know what? I don't want people working for peanuts on my property because this is an expensive property. I want it to be taken care of. I want it done right.
Yeah, I think homeowners need to pay close attention to, in my opinion, because in my past experience, I've had issues with the contractors where the job wasn't fully done, or it wasn't done in a particular way that I would say, okay, it's a great work, right? So explain me this. Before getting onto social media, how was your business and how big of a role social media plays into your marketing strategies and your business all in?
So in Toronto, when I started, it was mostly getting work from certain like sites. So there's like Kijiji, there was HomeStars, certain platforms that can get connected with property owners. But social media wasn't really big. And in the construction space, I kind of feel that in Toronto, social media, it's not really a big role in like building, a company's growth. But when I moved to Winnipeg, Manitoba, it completely changed. And so again, smaller population, smaller cities, smaller province, the communities are more tight-knit. Facebook plays a bigger role. So in every Winnipeg neighborhood, there is a community Facebook group. People always asking for referrals. Oh, do you know so-and-so that does this type of work? So all of a sudden there, you can get, I've done work for like hundreds of people. So there's all these people might not even know, because maybe it's a friend of a friend I did work for. Saying, oh yeah, go hire this guy. And so now outside of the community groups, there's then other Facebook groups. It's just more tight knit. People know each other. It's a smaller community. Winnipeg's like a population, I would say the greater metropolitan Winnipeg area, roughly around 1 million people. Mm-hmm. Pretty much everybody knows everybody via 3 degrees of separation. So if you can be that guy that has that big social media footprint and you've already done work for so many people, everybody already knows you. So I'll actually break it down even further. So let's say it's a population of 1 million people in the city of Winnipeg. And then what percentage of those are the business owners? I would say it's less than 10%. And then let's break it down even further. Out of that 1 million people, what's the population are the real estate investors? But I would say it's less than 1%. So I've done a great job at getting known by the business people and being known by the real estate investors. And I'm a real estate investor myself. So it also helps me when I go network with these people and shake hands and they want me to work on their property. And I tell them, I'm going to be giving you exactly what I give myself on my own rental properties.
Interesting. So you said a few things there. Tell me one thing. You said you're a real estate investor yourself, and you own properties?
Yeah, I own a bunch of properties. Well, through the company. They're all a pain in the ass, but yeah, we have them.
Why are they a pain in the ass?
Well, the costs of owning properties has actually skyrocketed since the pandemic. So the interest rates have gone up. The insurance on the houses has gone up because the property valuations has gone up. The property taxes have gone up. The property assessment on said properties has gone up. The cost of the repairs, the cost of the materials to do repairs, the cost of the tradespeople, everything has gone up. And then meanwhile, the rent has gone up, but it hasn't really gone up that much. And actually right now, the NDP provincial government is trying to now increase the rent control. So under the previous legislation, rent control was capped at $1,670 on rental units that were $1,670 a month plus utilities. So already most of my rental properties were already under the rent control, but now they're trying to increase the cap to $2,000 a month. And it's not necessarily like a big deal because when the tenant finally, moves out, I can re-rent the unit at, the new market rents. So for me personally, I'm not really sweating about this. I know there's other landlords out there. They're really sweating because, it's like, oh, my property's already $100 a month cash flow negative. Me personally, I don't really care because I have a business. So, the rental company probably loses, I'm going to say, $20,000 a year. And that's fine because I just subsidize it with my construction company. Tax write-off right there. And that's why I own rentals, for the tax write-off. Because where else can I grow equity, expand the balance sheet, and then write off these losses against my construction company that's actually doing pretty well? Right? But for regular people that aren't set up this way, and you just have a regular 9-to-5 job, you're probably going to go bankrupt in the next 5 years. But with the rent control, it's actually a big problem, because if the tenant decides not to leave, for again, most landlords, they're like, oh, I can't get, the market rents. I can't just, raise the rent. It's now at the new limit of $2,000, a month, which is what they're proposing. So
if we can explain this to the audience, so they're proposing this 2,000 mark so the rental board is coming up with this number of 2,000. Is that the cap, or that's the?
So they're saying that up to $2,000 a month, you can only raise the rent by the provincial guidelines. Usually it's 1.5% or it's 1.8%.
And before this, it was 1670.
So if you had your rent above 1670, so let's say you were 1675 a month, and you wanted to raise the rent to like whatever, you could raise it above the guideline. You weren't limited. Now there's several reasons why you might not want to do it. So, like me personally, as a landlord, I believe that if you have good tenants, you want them to stay long term.
That's right.
It actually benefits to keep them there, because it's like, okay, I can maybe try to squeeze an extra $150 a month, but ultimately, if they leave the unit and I end up then having to re-rent it, there's a cost to having the property management company, release the unit. It's usually $500, and then I might have a month of vacancy. So already there, you're already either breaking even or even losing money, trying to make that extra $150 a month, turnover.
And yeah, there is an opportunity cost if, let's say, the unit stays empty for 1-2 months or vacant. Interesting. So what do you personally, when you try to invest into these properties, look, okay, this checks the box, okay, all right, I'll go invest in this one?
I wouldn't really say anything in particular. I mean, I'm relatively young. I got into real estate when I was 26. I was in different province, different city. Didn't really understand the areas too good. So also probably inexperienced, very naive. So I probably made most mistakes out there. Overpaid for certain contractors. Invested in areas and properties maybe I shouldn't have invested in. Whatever, we're here now.
It's a whole learning process. Yeah, it's a whole
learning process. That's right. There's experience, then there's inexperience.
That's right.
Right now I have the experience, so.
And with each property, I believe you'll get better and then get into better deals. And that's a natural progression of any business. We made some mistakes when we started a business.
Or maybe just sell it.
Yeah, get out of it and then buy something new. Yeah.
Real estate investing in Canada is super depressing.
Why what makes you say that?
Well, I mean, the cash flow just isn't there. And we also don't have a real economy. And that's why you're seeing Ontario and British Columbia. Those crashing. Markets, I don't want to say crashing, but they're dipping
They've taken
down.
a turn.
Yeah, and it's not like it's going to be better, next week or next spring or next year it's going to get better. It's not the case. I think it's going to be stagnating.
You brought up a very cool point, my friend. You said Canada's economy not a real economy because we are very much based on a credit system here. Like everything runs on a credit.
Yeah, trading houses to each other. It's not a real business.
It's like arbitrage. You make the difference and you keep going. You bump up the market value, and where does it stop? It's not sustainable at one point.
Right, like a real economy is developing the country's natural resources. Building pipelines to deliver these resources to other markets that want them, and then that creates jobs because now we need steel to create these pipelines. Those jobs are union jobs, good paying jobs produce the steel. The workers, the trades guys that are building these pipelines, also union jobs, good paychecks.
You're right on point on that one. You want, as a country, you want to be selling to other countries, not selling in between. What right now is happening in Canada for the most part is guy A is selling to guy B for a difference, and that difference bumps up the economy. We're not producing enough natural resources that can be, and pumped out to the world, and make your own citizens rich by selling it to different, like you say, they'll generate good quality union jobs. And
We might not even have to pay taxes, like think about like country like Saudi Arabia. I think it's a comparable population to Canada, like 40 million people. Fraction of the land mass, fraction of the natural resources that we have, because we have, we have trees, we have potash, we have uranium. We have Saudi Arabia obviously has a lot of, natural
Oil.
gas and
Yeah,
oil, but
yeah.
we have that and everything else.
But
And
you know what we don't have is willingness to take it out of the ground and sell it.
yeah, so it's obviously a leadership problem here in Canada, but in theory, if we really wanted to, Canada could be one of the
Richest.
wealthiest countries in the world, and we wouldn't have to pay any taxes, and the revenues from the natural resources would cover healthcare. We'd have world-class healthcare. Here we are in Manitoba, where people are literally dying in the waiting room, and they're saying, "Oh, and there's not even enough money to cover the healthcare." And then the doctors don't even want to work here because we tax them to death.
And then, of course, we'll lose talent. They can go to states and make big bucks. Why would they serve here in a universal healthcare? It's when the government knows making your own people rich is the best way to go about it. Why don't they?
Well, no, I'll tell you why. So Canada is run as like a secret society. And we know about this because you go look at the legislative building here in Manitoba. It's all full of Masonic, symbolism, right? And they're all part of the secret club. And oh yeah, by the way, they're also property owners. And so this is actually a country that's run by the property owners. And I know I'm a property owner myself too, but there's people at a way higher level. And so when you're at that higher level, it's pretty much you're trying to maintain the monopoly. It's like, oh yeah, we know the people that run all the big businesses. We know the people that run most of the land, have all the properties, whatever. And so you want to create artificial scarcity by keeping everybody else down.
That makes sense. And I was going down this rabbit hole, this Masonic symbolism and all that, and I realized how Canada has monopoly in pretty much every sector, every industry you can think about. Communication.
It's an oligopoly where you have certain
three
players.
giants.
Yeah, three to four giants control pretty much like every industry in Canada. It's not like that in other parts of the world, right? And that's why we pay so much for everything here.
Because there's no competition.
Well,
right?
the government drives the smaller people out of business with overregulation, and it just so happens that then everybody's forced to buy from the big players.
And with the big players, government is in beds, and
Pretty much,
they get
yeah.
it easy compared to the small guy. Yeah. Does your line of industry or your line of work has regulations that bothers you, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's lots of regulations everywhere, especially construction. Occupation. Some of it is basic stuff like occupational health and safety. Insurances, building permits, all that stuff. So it's not necessarily that regulation is bad, but it does make it harder for smaller businesses. And there is a lot of regulation that they do add every year that does become more burdensome. So for example, with taxation, there's all these reporting requirements. So in construction, there's a T5018 form that I have to fill out. So for every subcontractor I hire, I have to document how much I paid them that year. If it was over $500, and I need their business number, and I need their address and all that. And the reason we have that is because a lot of the guys in construction unfortunately don't file their taxes, don't declare, they defraud the government. So now the Canada Revenue Agency is saying, oh well, it's the business owner's problem, because if you hired them, you didn't report it, it's as if and they didn't file the tax. It's like you actually you owe us the money.
That's very strange, because if this guy is complacent and doesn't file his taxes, how am I responsible? I'll do the due diligence when I'm hiring him for a contract, but that doesn't make sense.
No, well, it sets the expectation. And so whenever I hire a subcontractor, I tell them I'm going to be filling out this form. I call it the snitch form, but unfortunately, I have no choice. So this is the expectation. I'm writing this off to the business, right? You're going to be expected to declare this. If you don't declare this, it doesn't even matter because I have to report this.
Yeah, I agree with you that regulation is good, but not too much regulation is not good because it slows down business. And the first principle of any business, as you know, doing 132 project is speed. If you operate at a good speed, momentum, you can get things done faster. And if there's this building permit, that development permit slows you down, you'll be like, oh crap, this is putting shackles on me. I want to just get things done.
Yeah, no, can't be. But yeah, it's mostly, I think, the taxation. Like permits, it is what it is. But with the taxation, it really does. It does make it hard for people to operate. Right now, I find the other thing with taxation, a lot of people don't understand the taxation system. So, for example, I'm incorporated. So in Manitoba, small business tax rate is 9%. Federally, there's no Manitoba provincial corporate tax rate on small businesses. So right off the bat, I'm only paying 9%, but a lot of people don't incorporate because they think that it's too complicated and it's too much paperwork. So then they they run their businesses as, sole proprietors, owner operators.
And taxed in a higher bracket.
And taxed at the personal rate. Now, they can write off a percentage of their write-offs that, regular employed people can't, but ultimately at the end of the day, they're paying way more than I am.
That's interesting, yeah. So I always wondered if this is done on purpose by the government, where they have these taxes to slow us down, these regulations to slow us down, and keep us looped into the 9 to 5. And you brought up a very cool point. The Canada is run by a smaller,
an
close
educated,
society.
wealthy elite, yeah. Very
Yes.
connected elite, yeah.
And they take care of each other, and it doesn't bother what's happening at the ground level to them.
Well, they benefit from the specialization. I know I was talking about the specialization earlier, but my specialization also includes understanding how everything in my business works. So the bookkeeping, the taxation side. But unfortunately, a lot of other tradespeople, they don't have the education. And so without the education of understanding how the business works, how the taxation system works, ultimately they're sitting ducks. They're puppets of the society, the infrastructure. Now the wealthy, they like the specialization, because when you force people to specialize in one thing and they're wearing the blinders, they can only focus on one thing. Oh, you're a doctor, or you're a lawyer, or you're an engineer, or you're a fence and deck guy. Ultimately, you can only focus on one thing. And so what the wealthy people do is they get all these experts, they get all these specialists, they get them all in their pocket. Right now, I so happen, I like to think that I'm an outside the box thinker and that I understand how everything in my business works. But a lot of other blue collar business owners, they do struggle with the paperwork stuff. They don't understand the specialization. Oh yeah, they have people not pay them. They don't know how to take them to court. The lawyer starts at $400 an hour. So again, without the education, you're actually a nobody.
There's not much you can do. You're right. And by talking to you, I realized that you're a very calculated guy. Because other tradesmen, they're good at what they do at the job site, but at the back end, the paperwork, they miss a lot of things. Whereas you know 5 steps ahead, okay, this is the site I'm working on. This is paperwork that needs to be done. So in that regards, I think that's what gives you edge compared to all these other contractors that you're putting out of business.
Well, I don't like to laugh that I put them out of business, but look, the honest truth is that they put themselves out of business, right? Because, after 5 years of not filing your taxes or playing games with the taxes, CRA comes knocking on your door and they shut you down. Or they go and they do stupid stuff with the customers, and the customer doesn't want to pay the final part of the bill. And I heard that this is a big problem for a lot of contractors, where there's all these people that suddenly don't want to pay. And meanwhile, I have a 100% collection rate in getting paid from my customers. This is unheard of.
What's the industry standard?
I don't really know the stats at the top of my head. I just hear a lot of stories of people not getting paid in full.
Okay.
Right? So the thing is that people either want to pay me or they're scared of not paying me.
Because you can then...
Because I take them to court, we go put liens on their property, do all sorts of stuff. So, and we're not hiring lawyers. This is all me.
Because you have some prior...
Because I have the education.
So yeah, you put a great emphasis on education because it plays a big vital role in business, in any line of business that you're in. If you don't know the accounting, taxation, bookkeeping, permits, you're already behind the eight ball. So that is something I initially struggled with myself, but then I catched up on it later. That I'll tell you how I like to believe to do things. I have one insurance guy, one paper guy who takes care of all the paperwork because our industry is heavily regulated. So the bookkeeping does the bookkeeping, and this allows me to constantly expand, open new locations or whatnot, and try these new endeavors. So in that regards, if someone today, Johnny, wants to start a business and is starting his entrepreneurial journey for the first time, what would you suggest him or say, do this to have a kickstart?
Well, what type of business are they even starting? Right? Like a lot of people start, stupid businesses that make no money. Right? And, you say you're like in dispensary, and it just so happened it worked for you. But I know there is, in your industry, it could be an oversaturation.
It is oversaturated right
Yeah,
now.
we hear of like, dispensaries shutting down. A lot of popular businesses, actually restaurant business. Restaurant business, that's actually one of the hardest businesses to start. It has a profit margin of like less than 5%. And then the operating costs are going up every year. This is wild.
And people still jump into restaurant business like without even doing their due diligence.
Yeah, or maybe there's they're drug dealers, or they have to launder their money somehow, so they're okay with the restaurant losing money. But that's definitely an outlier. That's not like the norm. So when people say they want to start a business, I always ask them, well, what is your business? What is the actual business model? So my business, if you think about how my business operates, there's people, the middle class, that have decent jobs, hopefully, that are mortgageable. They're able to get financing, are entering into real estate transactions, they're buying property, and then they're hiring tradespeople to work on said property. So there's a market out there of people that have credit that can go out there and get the financing they need to do the deal, buy their dream home, and then hire guys like me to work on the said property. So, we know the market is out there. So that's what I tell people is you need to understand your market, who's going to buy your product. And what I like about my marketplace is that the demographic is like easily predictable. It's people the age of, 30 or over, could be any gender, could be any ethnicity, because purchasing a home, being a property owner in Canada, you're not limited to your, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, all of the above. I mean, I could say, education level, but typically there's, it could be anybody. Anybody could be your customer, as long as they qualify for the criteria of A, B, and C.
So okay, that explains that your demographics. It's from 30 to 40, stable income, good credit, or at least banks.
Well, is there a business case for it? And then if you can establish the business case, then the second thing you should then focus on is understanding the business rules of the country. So the regulations and the taxes.
And what would you say to someone who's entering into a cutthroat competition market?
It's all cutthroat. What, you think when I moved to Manitoba, that the Manitobans, they had me here with wide open arms? Probably. You know how many people I had to push out of the industry so I could be pretty much like the only person people talk about? And even then, so many other companies and installers out there, but everybody knows who Carpenter Johnny is. But it wasn't easy. It was an uphill battle every step of the way. And
you must have, as an outsider to Manitoba market, people must have been in the beginning in your industry pushy. We don't want new people in.
Yeah, we don't want outsiders. We want to hire other Manitobans, and that's why I have the logo, the Spartan. Helmets, because we're going out there. We're being fearless. We're being stoic. We're not being wimps. We're going out there. We're conquering market share every single day. Winning influence on the battlefield, and it's not even on the job site. It's actually on the digital space, because people see me online. Every day we have millions of views, and we're going out there winning hearts and minds, gaining influence on the digital battlefield.
Interesting. Is that how you see business usually, as a battle that needs to be conquered, this needs to be taken care of and all that?
Well, I mean, if you think about like the market's like what? It's like dollars chasing, goods and services. Or actually goods and services chasing dollars.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're not getting the market share, that means somebody else got it. So I'll give you an example. I got 132 projects last year, and that's not even a lot. I would say that that's maybe 1% of the marketplace, right? But the marketplace actually has other players, right? There's big companies with teams of people. There is, probably hundreds of other installers. But if I took 132 projects, it's just small time guy. I took 1% of the market share. Think about all the other small players that weren't able to get part of that 132 projects, right? And so maybe we could have separated, we could have divided that 1% over, 10 other people that they were maybe doing something else. Maybe they weren't fence and deck guys. Maybe they were finishing basements. Maybe they needed those extra jobs to stay viable. But I took those jobs.
Is it, do you ever say no to any project?
If it's something that's outside of my scope, because I'm very specialized, then I'll say no. If it's something that's super high end, I'll say no, because I'm like, look, I might not have like all the equipment that I need or the manpower to do this. And it doesn't make sense to tell 16 other customers that want to hire me this month for something I can easily do, to tell them no, to make one person happy, to maybe make the same amount of money. So I'd rather deal with as many people as possible and make as many people happy as possible, as opposed to turn them away to make one person happy.
And I think this helps you build more trust, Johnny, because if you say no to a project, and even if you didn't get that project, let's say, but you build a trust with that client or customer for future cases, because at that point, that guy knows he's not just here to make money. He gave me the right advice that he's not the one for the job, and then you're going out there satisfying the other 16 or 18 sites or clients.
Yeah, and this happens all the time, right? Where I tell people, I don't think I'm the best fit, and actually, I don't need this job. I might be doing you a disservice taking this job. So people understand that I'm not just driven by trying to get every job, that we're actually concerned about, we're focused on the actual success of the project.
So for you, customer satisfaction matters the most.
The most. Right, I'm a very well-reviewed installer. We have over 30 Google reviews. I have, I think, over 40 Facebook reviews. I have reviews in even other places I probably can't even think of at the top of my head, but I'm a very well-reviewed installer. And so reputation is the most important thing, because, I could lose everything tomorrow, right? I could lose all my money, I could lose my businesses, but as long as I have my reputation and I have my knowledge and my skills, which was used to even build this reputation in the first place, I know I'll do well. I'll get it all back. I might even be even more successful than before.
I like how you portray everything with so much enthusiasm and confidence. One last question. So if someone today wants to, this guy here is a, wants to be a carpenter, right? He makes good stuff, I would say. And he wants to start his own company. What would be your advice to him?
Well, understand the market. What are you trying to sell? Who's going to buy your product? Taxation, understanding, the rules, business structures, right? Is there a business case?
Thank you for doing this, Johnny. And before we end this, if you would like to let the audience know where they can find you, how can they get in touch with you?
So Carpenter Johnny on Facebook, I think roughly 25,500 followers. So the most famous tradesperson in the province of Manitoba. You can also find me on Instagram, Carpenter_Johnny_WPG. I believe that's the same tag I have on TikTok. Or you could even Google, my legal name, Jonathan Schiller or Carpenter Johnny. I was on TV this year.
Really?
Oh yeah. Because I make all these Facebook posts and they go viral and people say, hey, you want to do this interview? Might not even be for fences and decks, could be for other things. But I'm very easy to find online. So you can Google Carpenter Johnny, you can Google Jonathan Schiller.
Perfect.
I got a lot of stuff. I'm very easy to find.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, brother.